I spent 2 years jumping from diet to diet, trying every revolutionary approach I could find online: plant-based, carnivore, intermittent fasting, eating only bananas for an entire week. You name it, I tried it, and you know what I had to show for it? I was at the highest weight of my life, completely exhausted, and honestly felt like a total failure. But then something clicked and I stopped chasing these quick fixes and started building something sustainable. And 9 months later, I had lost over 30 pounds. But more than that, I actually liked what I saw in the mirror again, and I had energy. I felt like me again. And here's the thing: if you are watching this video right now stuck in that same cycle I was in, feeling like nothing works, then I get it, because I have been exactly where you are right now. And in this video, I'm going to walk you through the 5 stages that completely transformed not just my body, but my entire relationship with food and fitness. So let's dive right in. Before I share what actually worked, I need to tell you about what kept me stuck for 2 years. I call it the expectation spiral, and if you have ever tried to lose weight, you've probably been caught in that too. And here's how it works. You see a video or read an article promising dramatic results like lose 10 pounds in a week, this one food melts belly fat, I lost 50 pounds in 3 months doing this. And you think, okay, this is finally the answer. This is the thing that's going to work for me. So you dive in with massive expectations. You are motivated, you are committed, you're ready to transform your life now. But then week one passes and you have only lost maybe a pound, or the scale hasn't moved at all, or in worst cases, you have gained weight. And suddenly all that motivation crashes and you think, well, this clearly doesn't work for me. Maybe I'm just not meant to be fit, and maybe my metabolism is broken. So you quit and start looking for the next solution. That was my life for 2 entire years. I started at around 155 pounds at 5 feet 7, which doesn't sound terrible, right? But I was what people call skinny fat, and I had no muscle, no energy. I felt weak all the time. I had been eating a plant-based diet for over 10 years with massive salads, tons of carbs, drowning everything in oil with barely any protein. I was hungry constantly. I never really tracked calories. And I thought, it's healthy food, it doesn't matter. But spoiler alert, it definitely mattered. I knew at that point that a plant-based diet clearly wasn't working for me. Being hungry all the time didn't necessarily make losing weight easier. And then I discovered carnivore, and for the first few months, that was incredible. The weight dropped off, I felt amazing, and I thought I found the holy grail of diets. But here's what nobody tells you about extremely restrictive diets. They work until they don't. 6 months in, I decided to take one day off, just one day. And I went to Aldi and I bought vanilla ice cream and I made pancakes. Things I hadn't eaten in 11 years, not since my plant-based days when I only made homemade ice cream and never touched pancakes because I didn't eat egg. The moment I tasted those pancakes and that vanilla ice cream, I was instantly hooked. It was like a switch flipped in my brain, and one day turned into two, and then a week, and then I couldn't stop. Within a few weeks, I had gained back everything I lost, plus an extra 10 pounds. And I was now over 160 pounds, the highest weight of my entire life. And I remember standing in front of the mirror one morning and I just felt defeated. I was unhappy. I felt ugly. I didn't like looking at myself, and I thought I almost had it when I was eating carnivore, and now I'm back to square one. Why can I not just have a six pack and like how I look? Why do I always fail? And that's when I realized the problem wasn't that I was lazy or broken. The problem was I kept chasing these dramatic transformations instead of building something I could actually sustain. So I made myself a vow right there in front of the mirror. No more diets, no more quick fixes. I was going to figure out my own sustainable way to lose weight and to keep it off. Not for 3 months, not for a year, but for the rest of my life. And what I discovered changed everything, but it wasn't what any fitness influencer was talking about. The first stage was getting brutally honest with myself about what sustainable actually meant, because here's the truth nobody wants to hear. Real, lasting weight loss is slow, and it's definitely not sexy, and it's absolutely not going to get you a million views on TikTok. I decided that instead of trying to lose 30 pounds in 3 months, I was going to aim for losing it over 9 or maybe 12 months, and that's roughly 3 to 4 pounds per month. And some weeks I would lose a pound, some weeks nothing would actually happen, and some other weeks maybe I even gain back a little bit of weight. And I just had to make peace with that. And here's what I wish someone would have told me earlier. The timeline doesn't matter nearly as much as the direction. If you're consistently moving in the right direction, then even if it is slow, you will eventually get there. But if you keep quitting every time or every 3 weeks because the results aren't dramatic enough, then you will never get anywhere at all. So I set realistic timelines and committed to tracking my progress honestly. Every single morning I stepped on the scale and logged my weight in an app, but not to obsess over daily fluctuations, but rather than that to see my weekly average. That way I could see if I was trending downwards over time. I also started taking progress pictures every now and then, because here's something really wild. There's weeks where the scale didn't move at all, but then I compared the pictures and I could see my body changing, my face looking cleaner, my stomach was flatter, my shoulders had more definition. The scale is just one piece of data, but your body composition can very much change even when the number stays the exact same. So this reality check was crucial because it completely shifted my expectations and I stopped looking for overnight miracles and I started actually appreciating small wins. That mental shift, that was what made everything else possible. Once my expectations were realistic, I needed to figure out what I was actually going to do differently. And here's where I almost screwed up again. My first instinct was cutting down my calories to 1,500 per day and then doing this crazy high intensity cardio workouts on top of that because all of the influencers are telling you have to do them. And I was making peace with myself never to look at sweets again. And I literally told myself, okay, no more fun with food. That's just how it has to be for me to lose weight. But then I stopped myself thinking, wait, that's exactly what you did with carnivore. And look how that ended. So I did the opposite. I started with the smallest possible changes that I knew I could sustain forever. And micro habit number 1 was walking 10,000 steps every single day. And that's it. I didn't join a gym. I didn't start running. I just committed to walking 10,000 steps daily. And some days I would walk around my neighborhood. Other days I'd pace while watching Netflix or enjoying nature if we had a sunny day. And it didn't really matter how I got the steps, I just had to do them. And honestly, I had mega doubts about this. It felt a little too easy. Like walking 10,000 steps burns roughly 300 calories, depending on your weight. And I was thinking, wait, I can eat an extra 300 calories just for walking 90 minutes while watching Netflix or enjoying nature on a sunny day. But I told myself, stick with it. Just prove you can do this one thing consistently. Micro habit number 2 was tracking my calories, and I know what you think now. Calorie tracking sounds obsessive and miserable, and that's what I used to think as well. But what changed my mind now was that I wasn't tracking to restrict myself. I now was tracking to collect data. And for the first week, I didn't even try to eat less. I just logged whatever I was eating normally. And honestly, I was shocked. Those healthy salads that I was making were easily 800 calories because of all of the oil and dressing that I put. That handful of nuts that I would snack on, another 300 calories. And my oatmeal? This one shocked me the most. 1,200 calories. I was eating approximately 2,300 calories before I even had dinner, and no wonder I couldn't lose weight. I wasn't overeating because I had no self-control. I was overeating simply because I had no idea how much I was actually consuming. Once I had that data, I calculated my maintenance calories, which for me was around 1,800 calories per day. And then I aimed to eat about 100 calories below that, so roughly 1.7k calories. And then I would burn this 300 extra calories from walking, which now meant I had a small sustainable deficit. And this leads me to micro habit number 3. Hitting my protein targets. This was a huge game changer actually, because I aim to eat 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So for me that meant around 130 to 160 grams of protein per day. I started eating 300 to 500 grams of lean meat and eggs every single day. Chicken breast, chicken thighs, turkey, eggs, these became my staples. And within the first week something incredible happened. I stopped being hungry all the time. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about food every single hour. I wasn't raiding the pantry at 10 p.m. because protein keeps you full in a way that carbs and fats just don't. I created what I call my 80-20 rule, where 80% of my calories came from whole foods that helped me hitting my protein target, and the remaining 20% I could just simply eat whatever I wanted. Bread with chocolate spread, a slice of pizza at a family birthday, maybe ice cream on the weekend, or something simple like an extra portion of white rice. And this was crucial because it meant I never felt deprived and I wasn't on a diet. I was just eating in a way that supported my goals most of the time while still enjoying life. And that's why, unlike carnivore, I never snapped. These three micro habits, walking, tracking, and prioritizing protein, became my foundation now. And because they were so simple and sustainable, I could just actually stick to them day after day, week after week. But here's the thing, habits alone weren't enough because about 3 months in, something happened that almost derailed everything. Okay, so here's where things get real. Stages 1 and 2, those ones were exciting and I was figuring stuff out, seeing those initial results, feeling like I had finally cracked the code. Then came stage 3, and stage 3 almost broke me. Not because it was hard, but because it was so boring. After the first month or two, the novelty wears off and you're literally doing the same workouts, eating the similar meals, walking the same routes all the time, and your brain starts whispering, maybe you should try something new. Maybe you should switch things up. Maybe this isn't working anymore. But here's what I learned. Boring consistency is exactly what works. I found maybe 5 meals that I really enjoyed, that fit my calorie and protein target and that were just simply easy to prepare. And I ate those meals on rotation for months. For example, breakfast was almost always the same. It was just a black coffee because I don't really like walking on a full stomach. Then lunch was usually chicken breast with rice and eggs. And for dinner, I mostly had the exact same meal because it was just really convenient. And on some other days, I would now make my revised oatmeals after my walking routine. And then in the evening, I would eat chicken thighs with eggs. And did I get tired of eating the same things? Well, honestly, sometimes. But here's what I realized. I wasn't eating for entertainment anymore. I was eating now to fuel my body and hit my targets. And this tiny mental shift made all the difference. And were these meals Instagram worthy? Absolutely not. But they were delicious to me and they hit my nutritional target. And I could make them without thinking too much. Sometimes I'd swap rice with pasta or chicken for turkey, but the structure stayed the same. I also started doing bodyweight exercises called calisthenics 3 to 5 times per week. And at the beginning, it was nothing fancy. It was just progressions of push-ups, pull-ups, squats, and planks. And I followed a simple routine that I could stuck with for months. And you know what? I started to actually enjoy it at some point. Not because those workouts were super exciting or anything, but because I could see myself getting stronger week by week. I could do one more push-up, I could hold a plank a little longer, I got closer to a full pull-up, and this progress, even though it was slow, it was what kept me going. Here's the thing about boring consistency. It compounds. Month 4 was brutal, not gonna lie. The scale barely moved for almost 2 weeks straight and I was doing everything right, hitting my steps, tracking my food, eating my protein, but I didn't see any results. And this voice in my head, it got really loud now. It said, see, this isn't working. You are wasting your time. But then I stopped myself and I opened my tracking app and I simply looked at my weekly average instead of daily fluctuations now. And the trend was still downwards. It was just a little bit slower. And then I also checked my food logs and I was thinking like, did I maybe eat some more sodium than usual? Because this would have explained water retention. Maybe I had a social event where I eat a little closer to my maintenance calories. And yeah, this is just part of life, you know. And this was the moment when I learned to treat weight loss more like a science experiment instead of personal judgment, because every weigh-in was just a data point. It's not good or bad, it's just a number, it's just information. And this approach removed now all the emotional charge from the process. I trust the data and not the drama. Keep showing up, and within another week, the scale dropped for 2 pounds. It was completely crazy. The plateau broke because I didn't panic and I changed everything. I just kept going with what worked before. Also, people started noticing and they would say something like, wow, you look great. What's your secret? And I would tell them, well, I walk every day, I track my food, and I eat a lot of protein. And you could literally see the disappointment in their faces because they thought I had some magic trick or some secret supplement that they could copy or some revolutionary workout. But the truth is, there is no secret. There's just real consistency showing up day after day. And even if it's boring, even if the results are slow, even when you don't feel motivated, this is the real secret. By month 6, I had lost 20 pounds, and for the first time in my life, when I looked in the mirror, I didn't feel disappointed, I didn't feel ugly, I actually liked what I saw. But here's another thing what nobody tells you about losing weight. Getting there is only half the battle, because once you've lost the weight, a whole new challenge begins. One that I personally was not prepared for at all. People started calling me out for losing too much weight, and my family would say things like, "You're getting too skinny. You need to eat more." Friends who 6 months earlier had told me they could never do what I was doing, they suddenly became the experts on what I should be doing now. And at first I thought they were just concerned, but then I realized something. Some of them felt guilty because they had told me they couldn't follow along, and here I was proving it was possible. Guilty because they hadn't even tried. There was one friend who actually started the journey with me but quit after around 2 weeks. And now watching me succeed felt like a mirror reflecting their own failure. So instead of celebrating with me, they just literally tried to hold me back now because I was obsessed. You've lost enough. Just have the cake. One piece won't hurt you. And the worst part, I started doubting myself. I'd look in the mirror now and think, do I really look better, or did I just trade being skinny fat for just being skinny? And I was getting stronger with my calisthenics, and I could do more push-ups and hold longer planks, and my pull-ups were improving, but did I really look more muscular, or was everyone else right? At social events, I would have to give people the cold shoulder sometimes and say no thanks to this massive piece of chocolate cake because I didn't hit my protein target yet. And they would look at me like I was the problem. And the pressure to maintain weight became almost mandatory at that point. Not because I wanted to prove something to them, but because I needed to prove something to myself. I can do this for the rest of my life. I couldn't let myself fall again. I couldn't go back to being this person in the mirror who felt ugly and defeated. So maintaining the weight wasn't about health anymore. It was about survival. And honestly, I felt like I wasn't even doing enough. I would see these other people's transformation online, guys who seemed to progress way faster and who looked more jacked, who had it all figured out. And I would think, am I even doing this right? I doubted my journey and I was terrified I snapped at some point and I would fall back into old patterns, but I didn't. And that's when everything changed. Somewhere at around month 7, something weird happened. I stopped thinking of myself as someone trying to lose weight and started to think of myself as someone who takes care of their body. It's a small difference, but it changes everything. I wasn't forcing myself to walk 10,000 steps, it's just what I did. I wasn't restricting my food, I was fueling my body with what it needed. I wasn't obsessing over the scale, I was tracking my progress like any athlete tracks their performance. And this shift obviously didn't happen overnight. It happened because I showed up consistently for months, even when people doubted me, even when I doubted myself. And slowly those actions became part of who I was. By month 9, I had lost over 30 pounds. But what's really crazy about this is that the weight loss almost felt like a side effect, and the real transformation was completely internal. I had more energy than I had in years. I felt strong, I felt capable. I looked in the mirror and I actually liked what I saw. Not because everyone else approved, but because I approved. My self-esteem went up dramatically, not just because I looked better, but because I had proven to myself that I could set a goal and follow through, even when it was hard and even more so when it was lonely. I got to know myself again and I realized something. I'm actually pretty lovable. I know that might sound really cheesy now, but for so long I felt like a complete failure, like I couldn't even do something as basic as taking care of my own health. But now I'd done it. I'd built something sustainable, and that confidence spilled over into every other area of my life. And this is actually also what inspired me to start this YouTube channel, because if my journey could help even one person break out of this same cycle that I was stuck in, the cycle of trying and failing, of feeling judged, of doubting themselves all the time, then this would already be worth it. Weight loss didn't just transform my body, it transformed my entire personality and my life. So if you're watching this right now and you're in that place I was 2 years ago, stuck, frustrated, standing in front of the mirror feeling like nothing works, I want you to hear this. You are not broken. You just need a different approach. Stop chasing quick fixes and stop diet hopping and stop waiting for motivation to strike you and stop listening to people who tell you it's hard or that you are doing too much or that you should just be happy where you are. Because here's the truth. You deserve to feel good in your own skin. You deserve to look in the mirror and actually like what you see, and you are capable of making that happen. Here's what worked for me. Set realistic expectations. This isn't like a 30-day challenge, it's a lifestyle change. Build micro habits that you can sustain. Walking, tracking, protein. That's it. Embrace boring consistency because the magic is not in the variety, it's actually in showing up day after day. Then trust the data over your emotions because your feelings will lie to you, but numbers will not. Give yourself time. Let your identity catch up with your actions. It took me 9 months to lose 30 pounds. It might take you 6. It might take you 12, but it doesn't matter. What matters is that you are starting and you don't quit. Even when people doubt you and even when you doubt yourself. If this video helped you, hit that like button and subscribe because I'm going to keep sharing exactly what worked for me. No more quick fixes, just real sustainable strategies for building a body you are proud of. And drop a comment below telling me what's one micro habit you are going to start today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. And now go take care of yourself. You've got this. And next I want you to watch this video over here, where I show you exactly how to build a calorie deficit plan that actually fits your life. And yes, you can still eat pizza, because the biggest mistake people actually do is thinking they have to give up everything they love, but I'll show you a better way.